In a direct and unflinching exchange during a nationally televised debate, opposition leader Pierre Poilievre addressed Liberal leader Mark Carney, demanding a moment of reflection, of moral courage, and of truth. With the weight of public frustration behind him, Poilievre asked what many Canadians have quietly wondered for years: would Carney, once hailed as a global financial steward, now look Canadians in the eye and apologize for the inflationary pain felt across the nation, pain many believe stemmed from the very advice he gave to former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau? It was not merely a political question. It was a moral challenge. One rooted in the lived reality of families unable to afford groceries, of seniors fearing eviction, of young Canadians watching the dream of home ownership drift further away. This wasn't just a clash of two political figures. It was a confrontation between two visions of leadership, one anchored in technocratic legacy, the other driven by popular unrest and a demand for clarity, for simplicity in the midst of complexity.
Mr. Carney, but if I could begin by setting the stage. The choice in this election is, after a lost Liberal decade of rising cost and crime and a falling economy under America's thumb, do we want to elect them to a fourth term? Or do we want to change? Change so that you can afford food and homes. Change so that you can be safe on your street, and change so that your paycheck grows faster than your cost of living. Change with a new Conservative government. Because Mr. Carney has not changed. Mr. Carney, in 2020, it was recorded, you began advising Justin Trudeau. It's still on the Liberal Party website today that you are Justin Trudeau's economic advisor. They might want to update your website on that. On June 3rd of 2021, you said that inflation would be a sign of economic progress. And you advised governments, including Justin Trudeau's, your Liberal government, to print money, which led to the worst inflation crisis in a generation. Now, that means that mothers went to bed with empty fridges and empty bank accounts, worried how they'd feed their kids, that seniors worried they'd be evicted from their homes, that young people believed they'd never be able to own a home in the first place. Now, in retrospect, you look back on the Liberal decisions that you advised Justin Trudeau to take. Will you look at the camera in the eye and apologize to the many people who suffered as a result of the inflationary policies that you advised Justin Trudeau to implement?
I said earlier, but I'm going to say it again. I know you want to be running against Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau isn't here.
Are you denying you were your economic advisor?
I did not provide any of that advice. I did not provide any of that advice. I'm sorry.
Are you accusing your Liberal Party of lying about your role? Because it says today, you can go to the Liberal Party website now, and it says that you were Justin Trudeau's economic advisor.
The way you judge someone, in my view, is how they act. What they do when they have responsibility. Twice I was a central bank governor. And in both cases, if I may, in both cases when I was responsible for inflation was less than 2%. I'll add that when I was here responsible for the Bank of Canada, inflation was less than 2%. Our dollar was at parity. That is the kind of success that I can deliver for this country coming on this crisis. And
you were the economic advisor. What does that say, Trudeau, that gave us, we bring it back late, and they bring that we have had in my generation, because the policy that you implement, I bring it out of the MPs that are still in your ministry
to the
fellow Canadians. Crisis, which the last 10 years has been about the Liberals, the next 10 years should be about you.
Let's unravel the core of the dispute. Poilievre opened by painting a vivid picture of the economic landscape after what he termed a lost decade, years marked by mounting costs, stagnating wages, and what he sees as a slow erosion of Canadian self-sufficiency. He challenged Carney directly, will you look the camera in the eye and apologize to the many people who suffered as a result of the inflationary policies that you advised Justin Trudeau to implement? He referenced Carney's prior public remarks, most notably a 2021 interview where Carney implied that a certain level of inflation could be a sign of economic progress. That idea, Poilievre argued, now rings hollow against the backdrop of historical inflation spikes in 2022, when rates surged to over 8%, a level not seen in nearly 4 decades. For Canadians who experienced this firsthand, it wasn't academic theory. It was empty refrigerators and diminishing hope. And then came the denial. Carney, calm but firm, insisted he gave no such advice to Trudeau, reiterating his past achievements as Governor of the Bank of Canada and Bank of England, where inflation remained below 2%. The way you judge someone, Carney said, is how they act when they have responsibility. But Poilievre wasn't finished. He cited the Liberal Party's own website, which still listed Carney as an economic advisor. Was Carney denying the role assigned to him by the very party he now leads? Was there a fracture between public identity and private action? These were not technicalities. They were philosophical questions. They spoke to integrity, to clarity, to whether Canadians could trust those who shape their financial future. Let's pause for a moment and appreciate what unfolded beneath the surface. This wasn't just political theater. It was a crystallization of a much larger human drama, the hunger for accountability. The demand that those who hold power not hide behind bureaucratic abstraction but confront the consequences of their influence. In this, we find the beating heart of democratic responsibility, a call not merely to govern, but to answer for the impact of that governance. Poilievre's rhetoric echoed the structure of constructive dialogue, not just criticism for its own sake, but an invitation, perhaps even a plea, for self-examination. Did you see the pain? He asked, not in those exact words, but in essence. Did you hear the people? Did you consider what your policies might mean for them? This moment encapsulated several critical features: confrontation not as aggression but as a pathway to truth, the call for intellectual humility, and the capacity to re-evaluate assumptions when new evidence, or pain, surfaces. Carney, for his part, embodied the defensive posture of technocratic stewardship. He did not concede. He relied on historical performance metrics, inflation targets met, parity maintained, to defend his legacy. But he did not directly answer the emotional charge. In doing so, he may have missed the deeper point, that truth, especially in politics, is not merely about statistics. It is about how those statistics are felt in the lives of ordinary people. At its core, this debate was about narrative, not just what happened, but who gets to explain it, and how. Poilievre's story is one of betrayal, of elites disconnected from the consequences of their ideology, of government figures cloaked in institutional prestige but unaware, or uninterested, in how their decisions ripple through kitchen tables across the country. Carney's story is one of competence, of a steady hand in turbulent times, of global respect and economic pragmatism. But in this moment, that story was challenged, not by superior policy, but by superior connection to the pain that policy produced. Emotionally, the exchange ignited questions that transcend partisan politics. Who bears responsibility when inflation rises and wages stagnate? Can leaders who once praised monetary expansion now deny its consequences? And perhaps most importantly, what does it mean to lead, to really lead, in a time of economic uncertainty? This debate was not just about inflation. It was about human nature. The tension between pride and humility. Between institutional defense and moral reckoning. Between those who believe leadership is measured by statistical outcomes, and those who believe it must be grounded in listening, in feeling, in seeing the invisible weight many carry silently. In the spirit of reflective democracy, one must ask, was there a moment of genuine listening? Did either leader allow themselves to be altered by the other? Or was this simply another volley in a campaign designed to solidify rather than illuminate? We may never know Carney's private thoughts after the debate. But the public record now contains his denial, and Poilievre's persistence. And here lies the final lesson: in times of uncertainty, clarity is not a luxury. It is a necessity. Canadians deserve to know who advised what, when, and why. They deserve transparency in the evolution of ideas, and the consequences of their implementation. And as they approach the ballot box, Canadians must now decide, who sees them more clearly? Who hears them more intently? And who will walk forward not with charts alone, but with the courage to admit when they were wrong, and the humility to learn? This was not merely an economic debate. It was a debate about vision. About what it means to serve. About whether we are governed by those who speak in headlines or those who listen in silence. In this, history will not just remember who had the numbers, but who had the truth.